So I wanted to do a conversation with a variety of people leading up to Mission84, because one, it's also about raising awareness of suicide within men and suicide in general. So that's the whole purpose behind Mission84, is to raise awareness for suicide. But I believe part of it is also to educate alongside awareness. And I believe just putting a picture up and a nice fancy phrase, I believe, doesn't really do it justice. I think you need to have more content, more conversations, speaking about what people have been through, and that's kind of what we're doing over the next 2 to 3 months with random members within our Rage Fitness community or clinical professionals outside of Rage Fitness who very kindly come in to speak about their experiences from the clinical profession. Mission84 is basically raising awareness for suicide, and the reason it's called Mission84 is because 84 men sadly commit suicide a week in the UK, and what I'm doing is a kilometre on a bike or cycling every day from the 2nd of October to the 25th of December. So we started on 1k, then we're doing 2k, 3k, 4k, and we finish on 84 kilometres on Christmas Day, which is a challenge in itself, but I think people might get a bit bored and a bit pissed off just seeing me on a bike going round and round and round. So as I say, part of Mission84 is to raise awareness and educate around suicide. So the first person I'm speaking to is Mark Cartner.
Yeah.
I've known him for like a year and a half.
Yeah, Mark.
I call him Gartner for some reason. So I met Mark, as I say, a year and a half ago.
I think it was, yeah.
About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. And we spoke like we would any other person, very friendly, very welcoming, getting him involved. Beasted him a few times in the gym and in the classes and all the rest of it. Mark can vouch for that. But then again, I think as you become friends with somebody, you just kind of open up more and more and more, don't you? As humans do, I guess.
I think so. I think obviously for me as well, having, consider myself having a mental health issue, kind of making sure I'm not ever kind of worried about what people may think. It's something that does come up naturally through conversation.
Definitely.
Obviously with yourself as well, you've got that way of making you feel comfortable enough to actually, it's another bloke.
Definitely.
I'm a bit older than you, but similar age. Well, I'm 40.
Oh yeah, only a little bit older. I'm 31, in case anyone's thinking I'm close to 40.
That would be embarrassing.
That would be embarrassing. You're joking, Mark. So I think the reason Mark's talking with me, and I believe, as much as Mark probably doesn't think this, I think he's very brave to speak about what we're going to speak about, is that from the last 6 months, I would say 6 months, Mark has opened up more about his mental health condition and his experience around suicide and how his mental health condition exacerbated, has got better, and now he can honestly and openly talk about his condition. So I don't want to say anything wrong, as I just mentioned to you. I'd rather you explain what your mental health condition is, and then we'll just go back and forward on that.
So I think it was around 2008, 2009. It was obviously a very, very difficult period in my life, and we kind of came across this condition called body dysmorphic disorder, and kind of found it by accident. At that time, I was kind of being seen by a psychiatrist as well as a psychologist, because I was suffering with quite severe depression.
Okay.
And this had kind of been building from kind of my early 20s, where I suffered with adult acne, and it kind of started to snowball. And as you know, if you've ever get spots or acne, and it can really destroy your confidence. Obviously, being kind of 21,
it's like shit.
Yeah,
you get girls. Gotta look nice.
I was just 21. You're supposed to be untouchable.
Exactly, and I was just saying then, you can probably tell by my face, I've got psoriasis, so my skin starts to flare up when I've put creams on and stuff like that. So then it's kind of relevant to what we're discussing now, isn't it? Even more so.
All links
it's like I've done this on purpose.
We planned it.
We planned it. But sorry, just for interrupting.
No, it's okay. But it's that feeling and that awareness of, oh my God, I I feel this and I can see this on my face. How are other people seeing me?
Yeah.
You know, and then you start those kind of negative feelings towards yourself. The isolation starts. I don't really want to go out. You know, I don't feel good. Rather hide away. I don't want people judging me, or you know, which most of the time doesn't happen. It's usually yourself putting yourself under that
overthinking
condition.
it and putting yourself out, making yourself feel worse about it. But then again, that's not to say it's wrong to think that way. That you are your own person to a degree, aren't you?
Yeah.
So from when did you get diagnosed in 2008? Did you say?
No, it was kind of 2008, 2009. Like body dysmorphic disorder, as you know, is not really spoke about or well known.
No.
But within kind of mental health conditions, it's a lot more prevalent now within kind of doctorate writings and kind of the medical profession. But kind of at the time, it was me on the internet, kind of searching kind of the things that I was doing, because I was finding myself getting into these kind of almost like ritual kind of things when it came to my skin.
Okay.
And kind of getting up in the morning, getting ready to go to work.
Yeah.
And going through obviously we all have a routine in the morning, and it's kind of the idea of when that routine becomes destructive. This is what I was finding, and you know, the time it would take me to get ready to go to work was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Is that because you were trying to hide or improve the way you looked or make you feel better before you left the house?
It wasn't even feeling better. It was kind of to make myself feel normal.
Okay.
And this was kind of the
strong word, that, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Normal is a strong word, because I always say to me brothers and sisters, when I've got a brother and a sister, is that we are not normal people, because we are very. No. If we have three of us in a room, we are absolutely chaos. Yeah. We can cause murder in a quiet room. Do you know what I mean? It'd be absolutely terrible. Yeah. So normal back then in 2008, 2009, probably felt like the aspiration to get to.
It was. It was kind of. Almost like I could feel, looking back now, I could see how I was kind of spiraling out of control, because the issue with body dysmorphia is kind of what you see back in the mirror is very much a distorted image. So kind of the things that I was focusing on were very negative. Obviously I had spots, and it became all I wanted was kind of smooth skin. So it was picking, it was making sure everything was smooth, to the point where I would take razors to kind of spots, because it was this obsession with my skin had to be smooth. So
anything that was as an imperfection,
and it was
taken away to an
augmentation of your skin almost, and it was this distorted image that I was seeing back that was why I was craving this normal. And so my ideas of normal was me just looking like me, because what I was seeing back wasn't me.
Oh, okay, I see.
And so obviously I was talking to kind of psychiatrists and doing CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, because obviously, like any young male, you know, we're full of testosterone. My aggression was getting out of control.
Again, thinking that in that time period, 18, 19, 21, 22, 20, even up to 25, you are still chemically charged, chemically understanding, chemically unbalanced to a degree. I remember when I was like 18, 19, just running around like an absolute nutter. So then, again, that can be positive, or that can be a negative, depends how you channel it. How you channel it, how you see yourself. Which obviously for yourself.
See, because mine was always a case of kind of, I've always been quite an introverted, kind of quiet person, so it was, all these feelings and emotions was kind of being choked down inside, and obviously if you've ever tried to do that, it kind of perpetuates your anger to be worse.
Definitely.
So the more you try and keep a lid on it, the bigger and stronger it becomes, to the point where, you know, I was getting to 27, 28 years of age, and I was so destructive towards myself, and you know, kind of a lot of kind of physical abuse towards myself, self-harm, that kind of thing, because I was out of control.
Was that just regardless self-harm and abuse towards yourself? Was that just to your face, to look visually what you want to look normal?
It was an emotional release. It was kind of being stuck again, like I go back to this routine, it being stuck and almost trapped in the bathroom. And kind of, I would literally, I got so bad at it, I would smash the bathroom to pieces. I'd put my fist through tiles, head through doors.
Is that because the build of anger?
Like I said, from kind of early 20s, and I'd not dealt with it, and it got so far that I completely, by the time I was 27, 28, I was completely out of control. Completely out of control. And then kind of the research kind of started, why am I feeling this way? You know, and then came across a load of work that was done in America on body dysmorphic disorder, and everything I read was kind of like, that's me.
This is what I've been feeling.
Everything was like check.
Yeah.
So I remember looking back now, it's kind of funny taking work to a psychiatrist, saying, could it be this? Kind of.
I found this. I think this could be it.
And to be fair to him, he had no ego. He was kind of like, he read it. He didn't push it to one side. He kind of like, he'd not really heard of it. He went and spoke to kind of other professionals.
Yeah.
And then we kind of came back and it was like, yes, this does look like. But unfortunately, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back with regards to kind of where I went and how my life was starting to fall to pieces. So kind of getting that kind of answer, it kind of like, well, now there's a reason. And I felt like because I'd not dealt with it for so long, I was in such a bad kind of spiral of depression.
Yeah.
It really took
the
a
toll
huge knock on it. Yeah, and then obviously we're talking about suicide.
Yeah.
And at the time, my partner at the time was 5 months pregnant with my son.
Okay.
So then you have all these pressures. For years I've been trying to keep it together at work. Kind of going to work because I work in a school with special needs children. Yeah. So you go to work and you leave yourself at the door. You leave your
is the children who need your support no matter what.
Or you try to do that. So you're working so hard in the day to just forget your issues, to forget the fact that you're so conscious of your skin, and you're doing your job to the best you can, and then as soon as you get in your car, you're driving home, you're falling to pieces.
And I think that's, so you mentioned then once you got diagnosed, once you kind of found the information yourself, and then and they said, yes, we think you've got this. Did that exacerbate how you felt, or was there a relief? Or did you mention that's where it started getting a little bit worse?
It's got obviously back in those times as well. I've got quite a few kind of hazy spots in kind of my memory because literally everything had been building and things just really started to tumble down. And it was a case of, okay, we're going forward with this. So it was a case of trying medication. So I had to go through, if you've ever, or anybody's ever been on antidepressants, it's not always the first one that you try works. There's so many different types, and I was also on antipsychotic medication because there was a big issue about my anger. Okay. And obviously, looking back now, I have a real thing about anger, especially within young men. Young men that are angry, their issue's not that they're angry. You can't stop people from being angry. Anger is an emotion, and it comes from a kind of, have you ever seen the picture of the iceberg? We see the tip of the iceberg. And that's the anger that's displayed. It's the only bit we can see.
I think I can relate to that because before we started I was mentioning that I don't think I've got an anger issue, and I think someone who says that may have a slight anger issue. And I think I've got one because I think in theory everything I try to do, as you probably well know this, in the gym, on social media, etc., I try and better oneself every single day. Either that be from a brand perspective, or that be from content, how I physically look to a degree, because nobody wants to go to a fat personal trainer. So
again, that ties into what we were talking about before.
Exactly.
And kind of, the industry. There's an image expectation.
Definitely, and I think if you don't look a certain way, and you in my industry that is, you don't look a certain way and you don't act a certain way, then you kind of get left behind. And I think that if I feel like if I'm not progressing, then I'm going backwards, and it's hard to maintain that level of, right, I'm going to keep going with this, keep going with this, because if something doesn't work, you think, fuck this, I'm not doing good enough. But like we were saying before, is that you look at all the fitness professionals online now, you have to look a certain way, and that puts so much pressure on youngsters, either that be female or male, or young lads and young women, to get their fucking lips done. To get jaw alignments or whatever the bloody called at the age of 18, 19, implants. You're very knowledgeable of this.
Well, actually, it kind of ties into kind of my body dysmorphic disorder, because obviously you kind of, there's elements of kind of this obsessive compulsive nature to it. So like I spoke before about kind of the picking. Also at the same time I was seeing a dermatologist to try and get my skin sorted out, and I was looking at chemical peels and looking into that industry, so I ended up paying
loads of
but the problem that it was in a way seeing all those and going back to like the girls that there's pressure to put implants in wherever on the body, it kind of solidifies that there was something wrong with you in the first place.
Definitely.
And for me it was like, okay, I need to go and see this dermatologist. I need to be on Roaccutane, that was the medic. It's a real controversial.
Yeah, it's not really. I would think I was given that opportunity because I've got psoriasis on my hands, my skin on my legs, and I researched that drug or medication, whatever you want to call it, and I was like, is it worth it?
No, because
is it really worth it?
One of the downsides is suicidal thoughts.
Exactly.
And which actually happened to me.
Do you believe that may have been from that medication, or do you believe that was just always going to eventually get to that
I think it was just an extra thing on top of. I think I was always heading in that direction, and this was one extra thing that kind of
pushed you to that.
Pushed me, yeah.
So again, as I say, we are speaking about Mission84, which is suicide awareness and education now, I believe, because I think I've learned over the last 4 months of training for Mission84 and now doing Mission84 is that the education part is equally important, as in what's the reason why we get to that? Why do we get to that point? And one of them, as you just said, medication is potentially an additional to all the other things that you felt. So again, we are both talking about suicide within men mostly. So whatever you feel like you want to speak about is up to you.
I'm a very open person.
I know that. But again, I think if someone sees me goes, go on then, tell me about you. On a video that doesn't know the history behind me and you. It'll be like, he's a bit of a dickhead.
That's why I was glad you kind of, when you did this Mission84, and it was, you kind of put it out there that you were looking to talk to people. I thought to myself, okay, well here's an opportunity for me to. I've spoke about this with kind of family and close friends, but other than that, I've never really spoken to anybody about it, because I'm always worried that people don't want to hear kind of things in reality, because the thing I found with mental health is that, like you said, it's okay that all these pictures go out over the internet, and it's okay to not be okay, and it's kind of like, well, is it? Is it okay to not be okay? It's like you can have a mental health condition, but please don't show that you've got a mental health condition.
Because then we don't want to see that shit. Do you know what I mean? It's not a fit in the profile of what I want to do. And I think I've seen something online yesterday, is that not yesterday, it's today. It's World Suicide Day today, isn't it today?
Mental
which
health
is fantastic.
Day,
Sorry, World Mental Health Day. World Mental Health Day, which I believe doing this,
which is really great.
Is an opportunity I never even thought we'd ever get to do. So I think people like to share content when it's relevant. So today you'll see millions of hashtags about World Mental Health Day and what that means to them and how they've improved it. And I'm one of them people that I put it on the Rage account today to say what we've done over the last so many months.
And I don't think that should stop. That should be.
I think that's got a purpose. But then again, after that one day, the rest of it's back to taking pictures of fucking puppies, for example.
But that's one thing I found coming to Rage Fitness though, and talking to yourself. It's not been about just a hashtag on one day. It's been a constant mission statement, so to be. It's kind of why we're here. That's kind of why we've got this community gym in Blaken. It's you're helping the community physically and mentally, because those two are so interlinked, aren't they?
This is like a sales pitch, this, isn't it?
Sorry, I'm not sponsored.
He's not sponsored, but he will be.
I've just been here for so long.
He's invested anyway. So I think, yes, like our mission statements, if you're not aware of it, is improve lives. Very straightforward, very simple. And I believe from speaking to you, this is potentially improving a life by what we're going to go into in a minute with someone might read it or watch it and go, actually I really understood what he was talking about there. I need to go and speak to my GP, go and speak to a professional who may know more about body dysmorphia. This BDD, body dysmorphic. I'm dyslexic as well, so can't say it. I say whatever I want to say.
BBB.
So again, improving lives in everything that we do, from a fitness class to working with a specific cohort within a specific school with specific conditions, either that be ADHD or anger issues or whatever. We do tons. So this is just part of that.
I think that's when you look at the umbrella of mental health as well, it does. You think of all those conditions, OCD, ADHD, autism, and then mental health is kind of an umbrella over all of them. Kind of going back to kind of what happened with me. Going back to
sidetracked. Sorry,
no, it's okay. I don't really think like I'm putting it off.
It's all about me.
No.
I'm joking. Go on.
It's a massive part. I think for me, that obviously at that time in my life when I first attempted suicide, I was my wife at the time was 5 months pregnant.
Oh wow!
And
Sorry,
I can see.
So with the 5 months pregnancy and the missus being pregnant, did that exacerbate you feeling like you need to not be here, or was that just like a split decision?
No, it kind of exacerbated it, because obviously I never thought I was going to be a dad. Even from when I came, but I never thought I was going to get married, because my self-esteem and my image of myself was one of, I'm just a hideous monster.
Okay,
that's what I saw back. My reflection in the mirror was one of like a Quasimodo, a distorted mess of a face, and why would anybody want to be with me? So I found myself, I met someone who was married, and I'm going to be a dad, and I was in such a bad way. I was missing time at work. I was off for periods because I just couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do stuff, and whether it was my face, whether it was my head feeling down, I was anxious. Couldn't leave the house, so I was getting pressure from work, because there's only so much work can do before you start becoming. We're gonna have to think about maybe moving you on, or at the time it was kind of like, do you want to go part time? Because we need you to be here, and I couldn't be there, and I felt like, how can I be there for my son?
I see.
And it was, I did not want my son meeting the person that I was. I was so ashamed. I was so low, so kind of full of hatred for myself. It was like, a lot of people will talk about suicide being a selfish act. And I can see how people who are left behind would feel like that. But I can tell you, in the moment, you're not, all you're thinking about is do you want to stop the hurt
for everybody else?
And I know that's counterintuitive, because you're going to take your own life, so you're going to hurt people, but it's the day in, day out of, I'm very close to my parents. I saw the pain that they went through with all of my issues and the constant phone calls and trying to help me out, and couldn't get through to me. My brothers couldn't get through to me. Friends are becoming more and more distant, and it was just, I'd had enough. And it got to the point where I was on antidepressants, I was on antipsychotics, and I said to my wife at the time, I've had enough. And I went up to our bedroom, I locked the door, and I took all of my medication. I took an overdose.
All your medication, an overdose.
And I think, looking back, that kind of broke our relationship, because trust was gone. Obviously she phoned an ambulance. The next thing, I'm in the back of an ambulance, I'm in hospital. A couple of days later, I'm back home. And then I'm back in work.
Like nothing ever happened?
And it was total denial. And then, unfortunately, kind of a few weeks later, I went to visit my parents, still just spiraling out of control. And I remember driving away from my parents' house, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and there was body dysmorphic disorder again, and I saw a big spot on my face. I just lost it. I was driving in my car, and I'm not proud of this. I accelerated around a corner, pulled my handbrake, spun my car, and the car did 2 or 3 spins.
Wow.
But that was very different to the other time. That was a spur of the moment. That was like a flash, like I'd never felt anything like that before. It was like that.
It was like a surge of like, I'm doing it.
And I remember I got out of the car, my car was totaled.
Wow.
And I didn't have a scratch on me. And I remember there was an older gentleman came walking up with his dog to see if I was alright, and I just gave him a verbal tirade.
Wow. Because
I was so angry with myself with what I'd done.
So when I'll go back to the first moment, if that's okay. So then, in the moment of being in your room, was that a build-up of the day, or was that an instant, like, I'm going to do this?
I think it was a build-up of months.
So that was like a snowballing.
So it's kind of since getting the diagnosis, and then kind of realising that I'm not going to get any instant help from this. This is and being told that if you ever do any counselling, the counsellor's job is to get you to understand that you're the fix. You hold all the answers. You're the key to change. And I thought, well, that's me fucked.
I'm not that person.
How am I going to change myself? And it was kind of like, I'm lost. That's it. There's no coming back from this. And it was just like, and then
obviously the first time, boom, build up, and then and a few weeks later. Because I remember you saying to me, that you tried to, on the second time, was in a car, but that was the first time you've ever explained it to me.
Yeah.
So I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
And again, you can visually see it, but then again, getting out the car, which just flipped a few times, and totaled, and you're like, was you angry because it didn't happen, or was you angry?
I was angry at what I'd done.
Oh, you were angry at what you did.
Yeah. And the realisation hit me that I could have hit this old man with his dog. And I remember at the time, obviously I was in shock, and I remember I was swearing at this old man, and he was just coming to see if I was okay.
But again, that's full of adrenaline and emotion and all the rest of it that comes with, isn't it?
And then all I was desperate to do was find my wallet, because in my wallet was the 20-week scan of my son.
Oh, fucking hell.
And because I just felt so guilty, and I could not find my wallet. So, and then the anger just built up. And at the time then, there's 2 police officers there, there's an ambulance there, because it's a road traffic accident, and I just remember just booting my car, because I could not find my wallet. And these 2 police officers, I couldn't have cared less.
Yeah.
You know, if they'd have tried to stop me, God knows what I would have tried to do.
You don't know in that situation, do you?
I'm glad they kind of just left me to kind of vent it out.
Did you find your wallet?
Unfortunately, and I don't know where he came from, my younger brother turned up. I think he just might have been at my mum and dad's. I think I'd phoned him to say I'd had an accident, and he must have just come round, and in the spin of the car, my wallet had gone flying out the window.
Oh, fucking hell.
And just landed, and he found it.
He found it for you.
And as soon as I found you can't. And then I was in the back of the ambulance, and then I remember the truck coming to pick my car up, and just this shame of, you know, kind of having to make that phone call to my partner at the time, and then kind of after that, again, that was never really dealt with it. Started to drink quite heavily after that, because that was the only way I could switch off.
It's kind of escapism is what they call it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because my mental health now, I believe, is fine, is good, is strong, because I help so many people, I believe, to improve physically or mentally.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying I'm the be all and I fix it all, because again, there's a lot of people that sometimes don't want the help. I'm just like, fuck off, Craig, I can't be out speaking to you today, but I'm a persistent little fucker. So I believe now I'm quite strong internally. But rewind 10 years ago, again, I was angry all the time. I was drinking, I was smoking, I was doing things that you shouldn't do, and that just exacerbates how you feel, and you feel like shit more and more because you drink more and more. So we were just talking about my sign, and how much we like the sign.
We agree on that,
and how much we like this side of the picture rather than that side of the picture. Just joking. But yeah,
I disagree, Charlotte.
Charlotte, no, we all like it really, kind of. But yeah, the sign's quite
it's a good one.
I think it depends how much you know about the historic events. Someone came in the other day to the gym, and I know this is kind of very off topic.
Sorry,
and she's like, "Oh, you a Scouser?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a Scouser." So is that why you got the sign? I said, "Just educate yourself a little bit, love." But like, I was speaking to one of my PT clients, and I was saying, "I nearly put my fucking hand through her face." I was like, don't start me. But again, that's
you a Scouser.
Edit that out. I sound aggressive.
Again, it's okay to be aggressive.
It's okay to be aggressive, just don't fucking punch people. So where was we?
Unless they punch you first.
That's true. Your brother found your wallet, and then when he found that, you kind of relaxed, was it? Or
I felt, I felt like, obviously, because I think in that moment, I didn't want to deal with what I'd just done, so my kind of focus kind of was on just this thing that was just not that important in the grand scheme of things at the time with the car crash. And it was just, obviously the ambulance was trying to see if I was okay, and I was like, fine, especially since I'd found this picture, and then it was obviously, like I said, I was drinking after that, because it was the only thing that just stopped my brain. I always used to remember talking to the psychiatrist, and whenever I would used to get angry or I'd get this overwhelming like rage, and it was like the worst part of it, I felt like my brain was on fire. And I don't know if you've ever been so angry you feel like your brain's on fire. And I always asked him, what was it? What's making my brain feel like it's on fire? And he said, it's the synapses in your brain, it's the electrical energy, because my brain was just firing all the time, and I couldn't stop it. because it was just my train of thought at the time. I would go from something happened, boom, straight to just totally aggressive.
Was that also because you think, did you come off medication then, or was you on medication?
No, I was kind of, obviously because it takes a while to find the right one.
Definitely.
So I think at the time I was on both. I'd stopped the antipsychotic medication because it made me like a zombie.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. I just couldn't.
No.
I was just.
It wasn't you at all.
No, and yeah, it was tough. But I kind of, after that, obviously the drinking, and then missing work again, and then I remember one day, kind of, I was face down in my kitchen. Jack Daniels. I used to drink Jack Daniels, and I think it was about 11:30 in the morning. I was just absolutely out of it, face down.
Did you?
I remember my partner at the time was just. I just had this blurry image of her just leaving.
Oh, fucking
She'd got to the breaking point. So my son was born at this point.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was there as a father, but in the first kind of couple of weeks that he was born, I was a mess.
Yeah.
I was a mess. So she couldn't take it anymore, and she walked away.
Did she?
At the time, I was angry because I felt like. Kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Of course you don't want to be with me. I'm hideous, and that kind of fuels.
And then I'm doing this and I'm doing that. For example.
And it kind of then I was on my own. And it took kind of my mum kind of just turning up and just like throwing some clothes in the bag, and she literally took me home to her house.
Back to your mum's house.
Back to my mum's house where I grew up. And
Mum knows best though.
She did, in a way. I think back to that, and it's kind of that saved my life. Something so simple.
I think from that perspective again, I'm not in your life and I've never lived your life, so please tell me to politely fuck off.
No.
Is that I think if you are in a certain culture, if you are in a certain bubble, if you're in a certain way of life, and you repeat that system, and you repeat that method, and you repeat that way of thinking or being, or your habits, etc. You do need to detach a wee bit.
Yeah.
And if you detach, again, talking about brainwaves, it makes your brain go a little bit different.
Yeah.
And your mum probably, being your mum, caring so much about you, thought, let's just take him home. Let's be an actual mother. Let's be an actual father. And that's probably what leveled you out to a degree, if that makes sense.
I mean, it was a long road.
I'm not saying it was like a quick.
I'm not saying
that.
It was literally, kind of. I kind of went back to being. It was literally, do as your mum says, kind of thing. And she tried to help me from a distance for so long, and us as a new family, it just wasn't working.
No.
So kind of literally, she took me back, and then obviously at that point I'd kind of almost lost everything. I'd almost lost my life on 2 separate occasions. My wife had left me.
Yeah.
She took my son. I still saw my son. Yeah. I never stopped seeing him in those first couple of weeks he was born. I almost lost my job at the school I was at. There was big pressure to kind of try and get rid of me, and I was literally, friends disappeared. And I was literally back at home, and it was literally, I know, again a cliche, it was not even one day at a time, it was an hour at a time. That's how I kind of had to go back to trying to live my life. Obviously being like a new parent as well, was all that on top of it.
So when you was back at your mum's, did you see your son?
Yeah. So straight off the bat, even though I'd done all these things, and looking back, I don't even know how I managed it. Obviously having my mum help me. So I'd have my son for half the week, and we still do that. We still do that to this day. It's been 11 and a half years since that.
Yeah.
And I still have him, half the time. Whether I was the parent I could have been in the early days, probably not, because it took me a long time to really kind of get over.
I think that must be hard. I'm not a parent, but kind of. I'm a stepfather.
It's just as hard. Yeah.
I love it to pieces, but I've never had a small wee one. Never mind having a mental health condition on top of that, and then historic multiple suicides. Then your missus leaving you. So I imagine to be a parent must be massively overwhelming. Never mind just trying to keep yourself going by the hour.
Yeah.
So did you feel like being a father helped you helped to improve, or was that a drain? Or
no, I think it was. I wouldn't say it was. Obviously, it was a positive in my life because my son was at that time. It was the first time in my life I think I could ever focus on something else, and it really took me out of my own head, because I had no choice. I know my mum was there, and it would have been easier to just look after my son, but she was very important, because she knows, she's raised me and my two brothers, so she knew what it was like to make those kind of paternal bonds, and how important it was to be a parent, and make sure I raised my son right. And it was just going back to, everything was simplified in my life. I had nothing else to think about. It was my son, go to work, come back to my parents, and it was literally, it was back to basic. I didn't have anything that complicated to think about anymore. It was, I still felt the same. I still had those, the depression, the feeling of how I looked in the mirror. That never really stopped. It was just, can I get these other things in my life into place? And slowly but surely, I did. It kind of, the turning point in my life was at the school I was at the time. We obviously, like I said, I'd been off for so long, and we had a 6-week term, half term, right before the summer. And my mum set me a challenge. She was like, "Do you think you can do 6 weeks in work without a day off?" And at the time, that seemed like the biggest. We talk about missions. For me, that was a mission. That was like the biggest, the hardest thing I've ever tried to do. Because my initial reaction, if I don't feel well, I just go and hide. I hide away, and I did it. I don't know how the fuck I did it. I don't know how I got through it, and I got to the summer, and that sense of achievement was just something I'd not felt in maybe 10, maybe 15 years, maybe since I was a kid.
Wow.
Playing sport, because as a kid I always played football, and for me football was my escapism.
Something that you really enjoyed, something that you were potentially good at. All those positive.
And I guess I hadn't felt
affirmations,
it
I guess,
for all those years, and it was something so simple, or something we take for granted, like just going to work, doing your job. That's what you paid for.
But then again, I think where your headspace was, and what you were trying to do with your son and your mum, and you trying to improve you as a person, I guess, from a physical and a mental state. Completing 6 weeks to some is like 6 weeks in fucking work. It's not that difficult.
And
then again, to you, that's the be all and end all, and you felt amazing afterwards. So do you, as you've already mentioned, do you think that was the turning point that made you realise, right, I can fucking do this?
Especially when it comes to work. Because obviously, like I said, I work in a school, and it was, I knew that the days I weren't in, there was children that weren't getting the support, and that kind of guilt that was on top of the parent guilt that I had, which every parent feels. Parent guilt is a real kind of pressure that you feel anyway. You never feel like you're good enough for your kids. But obviously I had that kind of difficult start, and I kind of never wanted my son to meet this kind of horrible person that I felt I was. And it just focused my mind.
That's good.
And kind of, like I said, it was literally day by day.
So then, fast forwarding to now.
A lot's changed since then.
I think a lot of people will be like, so how are you now? How do you feel now? And again, I don't think everybody, this is me included, everybody, I don't think everybody's at 100% A-okay in their mindset.
No.
Because, for example, talking about me, is that I always think I can improve everything in my life. So then you're never truly satisfied. So then there's a guilt as in, I want to improve life for Charlotte, I want to improve life for Eva. I'm not good enough because I need to earn more, be more, do more, all those things. This is me thinking. Again, there's probably another million things I could say to get my point across, but I think everyone can understand monetary value, everyone can understand success value. And I think no one's 100% okay in the mindset. So what are you like now? And I see you probably maybe once every twice a week. Normally when you're fucking pissing with sweat and going, I hate UK.
I love this place.
But I hate it at the same time.
My back's going to kill him.
So how are you in your...
Going back to that word success, I guess it's looking at what you see as success. And for me, I was fortunate enough to get back to the point where I could make new friends. I got married again. I've had...
That's a big friend.
One
of your best friends, probably.
Best
friend, Charlotte.
Best friend, definitely. But to think, like going back to all those years ago when I thought I'd never meet anybody, and then to find myself that I'd met someone again, and we were both, when we met, we both had children from previous relationships.
Yeah.
You know, both relationships kind of ended in completely different ways. You know, mine was the cause of, you know, my mental health, unfortunately, was just too destructive for my previous relationship. You know, I don't give any blame to my ex. Unfortunately, mental health will strip you of so much, and unfortunately my relationship at that time was a huge casualty of it, you know. And obviously going into any other relationship since then, I've been very wary of kind of knowing what it can do, you know. And my wife now will tell you, there are days where I do feel bad.
I think that's human nature as well.
It is.
And I think that's one thing I'm trying to get across, is that, again, taking it back to something that everyone can fully understand. You go on Instagram, you go on Facebook, and everyone's fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
look at me with a puppy, look at me with my arse out, look at me with my fake lips, which is fine if you want to look that way. But then again, if you're false pretending that you are okay all the time, then you're a lot of full of bullshit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see me in here, I've got my hood up, and I don't want to speak to anybody. Because they're the days that I'm either busy in my mind, or Charlotte's pissing me off, or Benji's shit on the floor or something. I don't know.
I think that's really important to show people that side, because you know, it could be easy to look at you and go, well, he's perfect, he's got everything, you know, look at him, you know. But it's not. It's important to show people, actually, like, today I'm having a shit day, you know, and you know, I'm still on medication now. You know, I take antidepressants, and I probably will for the rest of my life. That was something that I accepted, you know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. It was kind of like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I have to do, you know. And I look at medication and antidepressants as, it's not a quick fix, because it really isn't. Anybody that's ever had antidepressants or any kind of a drug like that, I see it as, it gives me a foundation to stop me from going right through the bottom where I was. You know, when you think about suicide and those, where your mind is, you're so far down, you're so low, that's why your mind is working in that way, because there's no way out.
You're lowest.
You are. You feel useless. You feel pathetic. You feel like, why should anybody care about me? Why should anybody invest in me? You know. So for me, that first step, the doctors, trying to get, you know, medical help, trying to talk to somebody, you know, it's much better now than it was. Again, kind of when I first kind of was in it. I think that's something I was going to mention to you, is that obviously 2008 to now, from my perception looking, I'm kind of in the world of mental health and physical health and emotional well-being, so I live and breathe it every day. But for somebody who hasn't got a clue how they should go and speak to somebody, I'm speaking specifically speaking about the 40 to 45 year old men range, who, that's the biggest statistic of suicide for men. So these people might have all those emotions and be like, fuck it, I'm not going to be anymore, and I'm going to plan it doing this day on this particular time in this particular way. But all it takes is either to go and speak to a doctor, go and speak to a friend, for example. I think it's that initial step, which I think is the hardest to make, to actually go, like I said, that age range of men as well. You're supposed to be settled down, you're supposed to have a good job, you're supposed to provide for your family. We still live with those ideals, if that's what it's supposed to be like. So definitely, you know, in a way, me being younger, it was probably easier for me to go and speak to somebody, because I felt like I still had time to kind of fix. Which was the wrong mentality, because mental health can strike you at any age. Definitely. Like I said, statistically, looking at the Mission84 and that age bracket, it is, because at 40 years of age you shouldn't have to deal with those emotions, because it's probably something you should have dealt with or could have had. Or something happens and it triggers something in your 40s. I think, speaking about triggers, is that I'm going to bring it back to the fucking elephant in the room, COVID. Because I deal with quite a lot of different variety of people. Young girls want to get a bigger bum. Men want to look muscular. And again, they have different professions. Some own businesses, some don't own businesses. Some work in supermarkets, some work in beauty, for example. And what I've found is that men within that age range own businesses, and are struggling to come to terms with potentially losing that business, or potentially having to lay off
50% of the workforce,
Yeah.
or potentially how they can put a roof over their family's head, because being in a lockdown situation, it creates so many emotions.
Yeah.
And I think that is something I've thought about, is that Mission 84 can highlight those men who are struggling with those thoughts.
You can look at kind of mental health, that you say triggers. It can be a long-term thing. Like for me, I do think that it's kind of almost biological as well, because people in my family have suffered with depression in the past.
That's interesting.
So for me, I kind of see it as possibly biological, possibly environmental factors. But you think of COVID and people struggling with their mental health because of the kind of effects of this that it's had.
Definitely.
As kind of an economical point of view, then it's you've got to get out there and talk to people if you're feeling.
I think that's something I've kind of like latched onto over the last few months, is that obviously I own a business, or we own a business, sorry. And we were the gym in general was shut down for 4 or 5 months. And I was very fortunate that this is my gym and I can use the gym. And I was thinking to myself, if I didn't have a fucking gym, I would go mental. My anger would overspill. We were speaking about banana incident before, and then someone was leaning over to get me bananas, and during isolation I was like, get the fuck back when I'm trying to get a banana. And if I wasn't getting rid of some of my energy in here, then I think I would be a lot worse.
And I think if you spend any time out in shops, in the public, there is that feel around the place that people are on edge.
I think it's getting a little bit worse now.
It is, but it's so uncertain about what's going on. So there's in a weird way, COVID has somehow kind of highlighted mental health, because it's made everybody
fully
experience
aware
it. And I think everybody has, no matter whether you've got a background with mental health, everybody has felt it at some point. And
you hear about it all the time now, don't you? That during lockdown, I felt like this. And I say that with that type of tone because I think, one, some people just say it because they want to say it. But then again, if they say it anyway, it's more people speaking about it.
And it's like any kind of emotion, if you feel it, to you it's real.
100%.
Whether or it doesn't fit the diagnosis of depression or anything. If you're feeling low or anxious or worried, that you kind of get, especially finances,
that's the worst kind of worry, isn't it? I think moving forward, and going to continue this video with me and Mark doing a workout of some sort. Probably he's going to start shouting at me, Craig, stop making me do burpees and stuff like that. But I think it'd be good to do a workout together. You do like burpees, don't you?
No.
We're going to do a workout with Mark, and again go over certain things. But just to close, do you think, or have you got any advice about people who may be listening and going, I get what Mark's saying, I understand what Mark's saying, but it's not me. I don't have to, that's not me, I don't think that's me. Either specifically talking about BDD or just having potential suicidal thoughts in general, which is a very broad statement. But do you have any advice for anybody?
Again, it's just like, if there is somebody out there that's thinking, that's not going to work for me, or that's, I remember being like that. I remember thinking that there's no chance I would ever have those thoughts, because surely I couldn't be that selfish. But having been through it, it's really the complete opposite. You're not a selfish person. You feel that way. Obviously, if you're wanting a way out, then you need to talk to somebody, whether it's a close friend, whether it's somebody who's impartial, usually the best, somebody that you don't have an emotional connection to. So whether it's just a GP or somebody you trust, like I said, I know they always say, make sure you talk to somebody. It's easier said than done. But
especially if you have that nervousness around, they're going to fucking judge me.
And it's real. It's real. I remember when I approached, I think when one of the first times I met you, I think I'd let slip that I was on antidepressants, and I thought to myself, what are you doing?
What the fuck is
I've only just met this guy, he's going to think.
But again, I think hopefully that shows to anybody who's watching, or anybody who's thinking of getting in touch, if you're in this area, is that within day one, within 10 minutes, you felt comfortable enough to say, I am actually on antidepressants, and that's who I am. And again, you may go back home and go, what the fuck is this?
No, because I think once I'd said it, and obviously your reaction was just like, oh right, actually, there's a lot of people like that, and it's kind of like, I've said to myself before, this is who I am. Be proud of who you are.
Definitely.
I'm not proud of the stuff I've done in the past. I never will be, and it will be something that stays with me for the rest of my life, and I can't get rid of it. I can't ever get rid of it. And I know there'll be days when my son gets older, I'll have to have those conversations with him, because he will ask questions.
But I think it's also, you said, accepting it, and I think acceptance is the first response to understanding, educating who you are as a person. And as I always, I don't know, there's a shutter behind you with "be strong, be bold, be you," and I think that's one of the best things I've ever thought of in a dream. Because I dreamt that. Because
they're probably the three hardest things that you'll ever try and do.
Like, be strong in what, when you've been in a dark place. Be bold, don't be shy to be who you fucking are. And then be you is the kind of the same thing as well, then with ones above.
But to be you is hard, isn't it? Because you're going to put yourself out there. You're leaving yourself open. You're vulnerable.
Definitely.
You know, and that's a big step to make.
And I think, as I say, I've known you for a year and a half now, is that I like everything about you. Want every single thing about you, even if you don't do antidepressants, even if you was on psychotic medication in the past, even if you tried to commit suicide twice in the past, that's who you are, and I like that about you. You're here because of everything you've done.
That's part of who I am.
And I like that about you. I think for you, there's always an embarrassment level of it, like I don't like that a bit about me, but I've done things in the past I don't like. I'm not going to say that on camera. So it's like over PG that. But there's things I don't like, but I think right now, right here, I'm proud of where I've got to, and it's because of every single thing that I've done.
We're only here because of the things that we've done, and
definitely,
we're lucky to be where we are.
100%.
I feel like that anyway. I feel very lucky, and I'm not really a religious person, but I do feel blessed.
Even mine, I think recently I've been feeling exactly what you just said, like that. But I think myself and Mark are going to continue this conversation with a workout of some sort, whatever that will be. So thank you very much for speaking, coming here.
Cool. Thank you very much.
And appreciate your time as well.
I appreciate you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.